Okay, guys, we're back, and the last two problems out of the textbook that you have for homework are 119 and 120, with both come from section 113. So I'm in my ebook, section 113. We did some of this in class. We're going to scroll down and see problem 119. Which is right here. So it says study the dot patterns in parts A and B below. Assume that each pattern continues to increase by the same number of dots and in the same locations for each figure. For each pattern, sketch the fourth and fifth figures, then predict how many dots will be in the 100th figure. So we've got a couple things that we can use for this. If you look at A and B, it's dot patterns. And if you click on the resources, you can see that you can use digital dots and you can actually make your own, there we go, like that. And you can change the colors and you can kind of show how the pattern is, you can figure out how the pattern is growing and continue it. And you can do that for 19A and B if you want to use the digital tool. Some students like that. The other thing you could use is the homework help. And again, it takes you through the questions and it gives you hints that you can click on if you are lost and you need a little bit of help as to what they're looking for. Okay, so it looks like we have basically two things to do for each of these patterns. We need to see what the fourth and the fifth figures would look like, and then we need to predict the 100th. Okay, and then it's C, which we're going to answer, says for each pattern, explain how you made your prediction for the 100th figure. Okay, so go ahead and work on 119A and B, and we will discuss the answers after you've had some time to work. Okay, so we're back. Let's talk about 119 and let's talk about A. So that figure, if I look at figure 1, it appears to just be 3 dots and 1 dot. If I go to draw figure 2 and I count, it looks like, oh, instead of 3 dots vertically, I now have 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it looks like going across horizontally, instead of having 1, I had the 1 and now I've added another one. So the way my brain is thinking about this is I went from here, I added 1 here, I added 1 here, I added 1 here. So basically we could say we added 1 to the top, a dot to the top, a dot to the bottom, and a dot to the right. Figure 3, let's check this out. So instead of having 5 going up and down, it looks like we have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And instead of having 3 go out, it looks like we have 4. So we're going to go out 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, my pattern holds because I added 1 to the top, 1 to the bottom, and 1 to the side. So assuming that I'm going to be doing that every time, right? When I draw figure 4, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add 1 to the top, I'm going to add 1 to the bottom, and 1 to the right. Figure 5, assuming I'm going to do the same thing, right? I'm going to add 1 to the top, 1 to the bottom, 1 to the right. So figure 4 will end up having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to have 8, 9. So it's going to have 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Going out, it's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to have 4 going out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so figure 5 going up and down, it's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's going to have 11, right? Going up and down, and going out, it's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. Instead of 4, it's going to have 5. And so I'm just not going to draw it, but that's what it would have. Okay. Now, if I want to say 100, I mean, wow, I'm going to like draw these all the way to 100, and I have had students try to do that, but I would encourage you to use a table. So I'm going to make a table, and I'm going to put the figure number here, and I'm going to put the number of dots, because that's what it is. So figure 1, if I count the total dots, it has 4 dots, right? Figure 2 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dots. So I'm going across like this. Figure 1 has 4 dots. Figure 2 has 7 dots. Figure 3, if I count them up, has 10 dots. Figure 4, if I count what I have there, it's going to be 13 dots. Okay, and I made figure 5, and that's going to have 16 dots. So I'm going to look at this table, and there's a couple different ways you can look at a table like this. You are kind of trained in elementary to look at tables like going like this, like what happens from here to here. And yeah, okay, what? We have a pattern. It goes up by 3, which makes sense because look, I added a top, a bottom, and a side. So, yes, that makes sense that it would go up by 3 every time, doesn't it? So, you could, to get to 100, you could say, well, I'm just going to keep counting and I'm going to keep adding 3 and I'll figure it out. Well, you could do that. It's going to take you a while though. So, what in middle school we encourage you to do is to try to find patterns going horizontally in a table. Horizontally, meaning, how do I get from here to here? From here to here. Is there some kind of pattern going on there? 1 to 4. 1 times 4? 2 times 4? No. Let's see. 1 plus 3? No, when we go across, we don't add or subtract. We multiply or we divide usually. So let's see, 2 plus 3, no, it doesn't work. So I'm going to kind of look at this pattern. I know like, hey, I know something to do with threes, right? So 1 times 3 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Whoa, maybe I'm onto something here. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 1 is 10. Hey, I think this works. I think I can take the figure number times 3 plus 1 to get my number of dots. And I think that works because look, when we started out, you start with 1 dot and you add 1, 1, 1, right? Then you've got, you do that again, you add 3, but you've always started with that 1 in the beginning. That's our original dot right there. Boom. Okay. So this works, right? So what do I do to find 100 then? Well, instead of having to go plus 3, plus 3, plus 3, I just say figure number 100 times 3 plus 1. 100 times 3 is 300. 300 plus 1 is 301. So the answer for the 100th figure would be 301. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. That was kind of a lot of work for 119A. Uh, Ironically, 119B is quite a bit easier. So let's look at 119b and see if that came maybe, hopefully, a little bit easier to you, okay? So figure 1 appears to have 2 dots, just 2 dots. Figure 2 looks like I add 2 more dots. Figure 3, oh yeah, this looks like I'm adding 2 dots every time. So figure 4, 2, 1, 2, add another 2 dots. This is what I appear to be doing every time. It's just adding. So figure 5, I've got 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to add another 2 dots on the end. Okay. And then figure 6, I would do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd add to make it 6. Okay. So knowing that I'm adding 2 dots every time, let's take a look at our table, okay, that we did in the last problem. If we have our figure number and we have the number of dots, right? Figure 1 has 2 dots. Figure 2, 4. Figure 3, 6. Figure 4, 8. Figure 5, 10. Figure 6, 12. Oh, and you might be seeing the pattern already, right? So basically, it goes up by 2, right? If we're talking about adding, yes, it goes up by 2, up by 2. But if we're trying to find, again, the 100th figure without drawing this whole thing, without going plus 2, all the way down, let's look if we can find something going across. So let's try it. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. Oh, wait, I think I got it. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times, oh my. So it is the figure number times 2 equals the number of dots. Okay, so 100 is our figure number. We're going to jump all the way down there. Times 2 is 200. So that was much easier than having to try to count all the way to 100. That was a much easier way to do it. And again, what helped me figure that out? My table did. Okay? All right, we've got one problem left, and that's problem 120. And this is switching gears a little bit. This is talking about place value. Up above, if you need to use the table for this one, it's the place value table. It is up above if you kind of forgot your place value a little bit, okay? There is also homework help for this one if you need it. So let's look at what this is asking. So this is, again, problem 120. The value of a decimal becomes clearer when the place value is spoken or written as the number it names. For example, 0.1 makes more sense if it is read as 1/10 rather than 0.1. Okay, so in 6th grade, we like to shift our thinking on this. Middle school, high school, we're not going to say 0.1. We're always going to say 1/10 because it helps us remember what that number is representing. So let's do A. A. Write the following numbers in words so that the place value can be identified. So they're asking you to write these out in words, and there are 4 of them. So go ahead and work on figuring those out so you can write them in words. Okay, let's look. We have 0.4, which we said we don't want to say it that way. We would write this as 4/10 because it is in the tenths place. Okay, the next one, 1.3. We wouldn't write that as 1.3. We're going to write that as 1 and. The decimal point is always an and. 3/10. Okay, next one, 0.56. That's not how we want to say that. Let's look at our decimal places. Tenths, hundredths. So this is 56 hundredths. Okay. And the last one, 2.008. Let's look at this. We have 2 and, that's our decimal point, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and 8 thousandths. And in 6th grade, you are only expected to know through the thousandths place, which is the third place out, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Okay, so if you know more, that's awesome. But if you don't, that's all that's expected in 6th grade. Okay, let's look at B. Now reverse your thinking. Write the decimals that go with the following word. So go ahead, try that. Okay, let's look at what these would look like. So 35. If I write 35, that one's pretty easy. Just the number 35. 3 and 2. 3 and 2. Oh, I read these wrong. Okay, sorry about that one. The first one is 35 hundredths. So I put the decimal and I write 35 tenths, hundredths, 35 hundredths. The next one, 3 and 2 tenths. Tenths is my first decimal place. 6 hundredths. So tenths, hundredths. So if I'm going to write 6 hundredths, it's got to be 0.06 because when I say this, it's 6 hundredths.